Good morning, my name is Teoh. I'm going to present linked list header file and linked list CPP file. First, let's see linked list header file. We declare class list. In the private, we have struct node. In the struct node, we have string ID, string name, string IC, string car brand, string car name, integer quantity, integer random date, float price, float total price, not asterisk link, and we have not asterisk head, not asterisk p head, not asterisk p current, not asterisk p traverse, integer number in private. In public, we have a lot of function. The first is list function as a constructor to initialize the value. And we have tilde list function as a destructor. Next, void add to front function is used to insert the argument into linked list. Both data check to check whether the argument is inside the linked list or not. Void swapping function tag in two node argument to swap the data of the two nodes. Void data sort function to sort the linked list ascendingly based on the name. Void print data, print out all the data inside the linked list. Both data check IC function tags in the string IC to check whether the IC is actually inside the linked list or not. Print data by IC function tag in the string IC to print the data which has the same IC as the string argument. Float print total by IC function tags in string IC and add up all the total price that has the same IC as string IC. Integer number of item function is used to return the number of data in the linked list. Now let's see linked list CPP file. First, we have list function which initialize the value of number of item and p head equals to 0. Next, we have destructor which is tilde list function. Next, add to front function tags in multiple argument and then create new node p new and insert the argument into p new, set the p new error data to null. If the number of item equals to 0, let p head equals to p new and p current equals to p new. If the number of item larger than 0, let p current link to p new, let p current equals to p new. After adding the num item variable increase by 1. Next, we look at the data check function. It tags in the user's ID as argument. Let the p traverse equals to p head to traverse through the linked list. Well, the p traverse error ID is not equals to user's ID and the p traverse error link is not equals to 0. The p traverse will move on to next p traverse. If p traverse error ID is equals to user ID, the function will return true. At the end, if the p traverse error ID is not equals to user's ID, the function will return false. Next, we look at swapping function, which tag in two nodes which are node 1 and node 2 as argument. The ID, name, IC, car brand, car name, quantity, random date, price, and total price of node 1 and node 2 will be swapped. Next, we look at the data sort. Data sort is to sort the linked list ascendingly according to the first alphabet of the name. First, we assign the p next pointer equals to the end of the list and assign the p traverse equals to p head. If the first alphabet of the name of the p traverse is greater than the next, then the data of these two nodes will be swapped. Then the p traverse will move on to next node until it meets p next. If p traverse error link equals to p next, assign the p next to p traverse as the largest element, which is at the end of the linked list. This algorithm is called bubble sorting algorithm. It will continue swapping the data until the linked list is ascendingly according to the name first alphabet. Next, we look at the print data function. Assign the p traverse to p head to let it traverse through the linked list. Declare counter equals to 0 as the index of the data. While the traverse is not equal to null, the counter increased by 1 and print out the data. Then the p traverse will move to the next node and repeat again until the p traverse equals to null. Next, we look at the data check IC function which tags in string IC as argument. We assign the p traverse to p head while p traverse is not equals to null. If the p traverse error IC is equals to IC argument, it will return true, else the p traverse will move to the next node. At the end of the node, p traverse equals to null, it will return false. Next, we have print data by IC function which tag in string IC. We assign the p traverse equals to p head to traverse throw the linked list, and we declare the counter equals to 0 as the index for the printed data. While p traverse is not equals to null, if the IC of the traverse equals to the IC argument, counter will increase by 1 and print the data of the p traverse. Then the p traverse will move to the next node until it equals to null. Next, we have print total by IC function, which takes in string IC as argument. We assign p traverse equals to p head to traverse through the linked list. We declare the float total equals to 0, while the p traverse is not equals to null. If the IC of the p traverse equals to IC argument, the total will add up with the total price of the p traverse. Then the p traverse moves to the next node until p traverse equals to null. Then it will return the total variable. And the last, we have number of item function, which will return the number of nodes in the linked list. That's all. Thank you.
My name is Wei Ming and my metric number is B0320100060. Now I'm going to talk about the Q.h header for our project. First, we need to declare the integer array size equals to 0 as the size of our Q. Then we need to declare the template class data. And under the class Q, we got both private and public. Under the private, we declare the integer variable front as our index of our first element of the Q. And then we declare integer variable rear as the index for the last element of our Q. Then under the public, we got integer variable count, which used to indicate the number of elements in our queue. And then we got the array of data type data with the size of array size. Then we got the constructor queue as the initialization purpose. And then we got the void function and queue with the argument of data type data. Then we got the void function of the queue, data type data of queue front function, data type data of queue rear function, and then bool function empty, bool function full. This I will explain it later. We just said that we just declare this beforehand for the queue. Okay, let's start with the first, which is the queue constructor. We use this queue constructor to initialize the value for count, front, and rear. For the count, we set the count equals to 0, of course, because the queue still hasn't have any elements yet, so we set it as 0. And then for front and the rear, we set it as -1. Now let's move on to the enqueue function. And for the enqueue function takes in an argument of data type data. Of course, for our project, we will take in integer, but then we just set as data, since we can change it whatever we want, whenever we want, update our project. If the queue is not full, the rail will increase by 1 and the value is inserted into the queue at the rear index. And then if the rear is equals to the array size, which is equals to 0, the rear will become 0, because like since it's not full but the rear is equals to array size, means that we have been dequeued before, so that the rail will move to the front of the queue. If the count is equals to 0, means that there is no element inside the queue yet. The front will equals to 0 and the rear will plus plus. And then we will put the value inside the rear index of the array. And then the count plus plus, since we already put in a data inside the queue, so of course the element of the queue is increased by 1. But if the queue is full and the enqueue function is called, we will print the overflow. and we will not take any function except that, because since the queue is already full, of course we cannot put in any value inside the queue. Now let's move on to the queue function. If the queue is empty and the queue is called, we will print the underflow. Since the queue is already has no element inside and you call the dequeue, it has nothing to dequeue out. So of course it will show you underflow. If the queue is not empty and the queue is called, the front will increase by 1. And if the front is equals to the array size, it will become 0 and count will decrease by 1. But if the count is equals to 1 and the queue is called, the real and the front will equals to -1 and the count will minus by 1. Now let's move on to the empty function, which is a bool function. When the empty function is called, we will return whether the queue is empty or not, but return count equals to 0. And then for the full function, when it is called, it will return whether the queue is full or not, by return the count equals to the array size. Then now let's move on to the queue function, which is of data type data. If the queue is empty and the queue front is called, the queue will return 0. But if the queue is not empty and the queue front is called, the queue with index front will be returned. Means that the element inside with the index front will be returned, because since the front is represent the first element of the index. For the queue function, if the queue is empty and queue is called, the queue will return 0. But then if the queue is not empty and queue is called, it will return the element at the rear index of the queue. Now I'm going to explain the function in front of the main function of our main.cpp. First, we did include a few of the libraries. The first one is the IO stream. The second one is string. The third one is IO money to set the width and so on. The fourth one is the CC type to get the to make the integer to become a string. Q.h, the linked list.h that we just created. Of course, using the namespace std. For the first function, which is void function, win_inter, which is a short form for window interface. This is actually our main interface, which we will see when we run the program. I will just show you now. Here. This is the win_inter interface, our main interface, which shows, of course, the first one we will greet the user, which is welcome to the system, can I help you? The first option they can choose whether they are admin, they are user, or they just misrun the program and they just want to exit from the system. For the void function admin inter, which is the window interface for the admin, we got 3 options provided for them. The first one is process the booking, the second one is view all booking, the third one is exit to home page. I will not explain all of these options right now, because later the third presenter, which is Ong Qiao Hui, will explain all these options in details, what it does and so on during the main function explanation. Let's move on to the user inter, which is the window interface for the user. We provide 5 options for them. The first one is book a ticket. Of course, as user they can book stuff, since our title is car rental system. The second one is process the booking. They can, okay, let's not explain it. The third one is view all tickets. The fourth one is exit to home page. The fifth one is exit to payment. I just define the car brands, and then I just put all the car brands that we got inside this array, which we got 3 in total, which are Perodua, Proton, and Nissan. And then for the car num array, integer array, I just put in the number of cars that we got for each of the brand. which later we will use for loop to insert all the data inside this array. And then now let's move on to this struct car price. Since we got 3 brands, right? Each brand we got 5 cars, so that each cars got their car name and the car price, right? So we create this struct to represent each car's name and each car's price, which we got 5 in total. And then we declare the car struct, which is car price car, and we got 3 of them. And then now this is the data for all the cars name and the car price. For the Perodua, we got Viva, Myvi, Asia, Beza, and Alza. And these are their price respectively: 84.5, 84.5, 87, 119, 169. And then the rest is for the Proton and for the Nissan, and I won't read it out one by one since they are of the same function. Okay, let's move on to something more interesting, which is the insert function. We use this function to insert the name and the price into the car of the car which we just created earlier, which is the car price, respectively. We use for loop to insert it. Nested for, and for integer I equals to 0 as I less than size of car num divided by size of car num 0, which we can get 3 because the car num is of size 3. And then I plus plus, and then for integer j equals to 0, j less than car num, the first car num, j plus plus. When I equals to 0, the first car, which is the Perodua, the first car num j equals to Perodua's name, and then the Perodua's price. So I equals to 1, I equals to 2. This is because that I already know that there's 3 types of car brands in total, so that I use this to insert it respectively inside the car struct. Now for the car brand menu interface, which is the car menu that we just created, we will take in a string array as our argument, and then we just use the for loop to see out the element inside the array, which we use this to display our car brand, which are the Perodua, the Proton, and the Nissan for the user to choose. Now let's move on to the struct to store all the user booking. Just now I just said that for the user interface we got the first one, right, which are the book a ticket option. For this option, user is able to book to do their order, to choose their car, so that I use this user info struct to store all their details inside. Like we got user ID, username, user IC, which we will get to it later, the car brand selected, the car name selected, the car quantity, the rent day, the price of the car, the total price that they got based on the car quantity and the rent day and the price of the car, and then the status. And then now we got the header function. This is the user header that we're gonna use for the process the booking of the user interface. Like it shows them the user ID, their name, their IC, their car brand, their car name, quantity, rent day, total price, and their status. This is because that after the user choose their booking is still impending. They will only know their booking is approved or rejected through this process the booking option. They can insert the ID to know that whether their bookings already approved or rejected or still on pending. And then for this admin header function, This is a bit different from the header function of the user because we didn't display the status. This is because that admin doesn't need to know their status, right? Admin just approve, reject, or make their order on pending. Just user want to know these details. And then for the third and the final header, we got admin header number, which is the admin header for the second option of admin interface, which are view all booking. This is different. This is a bit different from the admin header because we changed the user ID to number. This is because only the approved booking can get into the view all booking option. Only the approved. So that when the bookings is already been approved, there's no need for us to display the ID anymore. We just make an index for it. We just display it index by index 1.2.3. rather than just ID1, ID2. Yeah, so that's all for the function that we got before the main function. So now I will pass on the presentation to our third presenter, which are Ong Qiao Hui. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ong Qiao Hui from 1BITS. I'm going to present the main function coding for car render system. At first, we use the preprocessor directive IO screen, IO manipulators, CC type, queue header file, and linked list header file. Using namespace standard. For the function Wei Ming is show the window interface for main page. It will see out the welcome to the system, what can I help you, and three options, which is the admin, user, exit from system. For the function void admin index, it show the window interface for admin page. It will see out the welcome back admin, what can I help you, and three option 2, which is the process the booking, view all booking, and exit to homepage. For the function void user index, it show the window interface for user page. It will see out welcome user, what can I help you, and 5 options, which is the book a ticket, process the booking, view all tickets, exit to homepage, exit to payment. Coding for the line 49 to line 51 is define the car list. We use a screen because the car brand is the character, and 3 area to store 3 brand, which is the Proton and Nissan, and save the number of car for each brand with 3 area too. For the structure, car price is used for storing the car information, which is the car name and price for each day. And coding at line 61 is declare the car number. For the coding at line 64 to line 69 is declare the car list and price. We use the screen to store the car name because it was the character, and we use the float to store the car price because it was the decimal number. So we use the 5 area for each brand and price to store the information of car. For the void insert is used for insert the name and price into item price respectively. So it will insert the name and price into the list, the car list. For the void car menu is used for the car brand menu interface. So it will show the car brand menu list like option. For the structure user info, it used to store the user booking, which is the user ID, name, IC, car brand select, car name select, car quantity, rent day, price, total price, and status. And we put the 20 area for each function. For the wait header is for user page header, and it will show the option to process the booking. And here we will show the user header, which is the user ID, name, IC, car brand, quantity, rent day, total price, and status. For the void admin header is used for the admin page header. For option 1, process the booking. For function void admin header number is used for the admin page header. For option 2, view all booking. For this part, we'll show the description of our system, and it show the admin page detail and user page detail. In the main function, it will declare the function. At first, it will show the enter your choice, so the user may enter their choice. If the choice is not equal to 1, 2, or 3, it will see out try again, because they have only 3 options. If the user enter the 1, it will see out for verification purpose, please enter your working ID. For example, B0320. If the admin not enter the B0320, it will see out wrong working ID. Please try again. And if the admin enter the true working ID, it will continue the system. So here, if admin chose option 1, which is the process the booking, it will show the admin header for the process booking, and it will see out the do you want to approve the booking. If the admin see in the character others than Y or N, it will show only Y or N. Try again. If admin see in the Y, it will show the order has been approved. If the admin see in the N, it will see out do you want to reject the booking. Then the admin see in the Y, it will show the order has been rejected. If admin choose the option 2, which is the view all booking, it will display all the booking from the customer. If admin choose the option 3, which is the exit to the home page, so the system will exit to the home page. And if the admin have exit, it will show do you want to continue as admin. So if show again, if the admin not enter the Y or N, it will show only Y or N. Please try again. Here is for the user. When the user choose the user option, it will see out the enter your choice. If user choose the option 1, which is the book the ticket, it will show the booking ticket list, and it will request to get the user ID. So the user may if the user choose the option 1, which is the book the ticket, it will show the user ID and request enter the username. And it will also request enter the user IC number. If the user IC number is not equal to 12 number, it will see out the IC must be 12 in length. Then if the user enter the true IC number, it will continue the system and it will see out it will display the car brand and the option and will see out please select the car brand. Then after show the car list, after list out the car name and price, it will get the car name, car quantity, and rent day from the user. So it will see out enter the car index and enter the car quantity, enter the rent day. If user choose the option 2, which is the processing the booking, it will request to enter the user ID. So if the user enter the user ID, it will show the status for the booking. If the booking is not approved for if the booking is not approved from admin, it will show the pending in the status. If the booking is approved from the admin, it will show the approved at the status. And if admin rejected, so the user can see the rejected at the status. Then if the user choose the option 3, which is the view the booking, if because the admin not approve the booking, so the user may see there is not order being approved. And the system will also request enter your IC number. So the user may enter their IC number. If wrong, it will see out the IC must be 12 in length. If true, they will continue. If the user choose the option access to payment, it will request to enter your IC. And and same, if the IC is wrong, they will see out the IC must be 12 in length. If true, the system will find the information that user booking and see out the interface receipt and show the total price and the booking detail. At the last, it will see out the thank you for the payment. The rental car will be arrived soon. Else, if the user enter the wrong IC, it will see out you seem to have insert the wrong IC, so the user may enter again. If the user choose the option 4, which is the exit to homepage, it will exit to homepage. Before exit to homepage, it will show, do you want to continue as user? So the user can choose yes or no. It's yes will directly go to the homepage. If not, will go to the main page. And that's all. And let me show the system that I run. So at first, we choose the option 2 as user and choose the option 1, book a ticket. And it will show the user ID here, which is the ID 1. So I enter the name and enter IC. If I enter the wrong IC, it will show the IC must be 12 in length. So I enter the 12 IC number. It will go to the car brand page. So I choose the Perodra, which is the option 1, and will display the car name and the car price. So if I choose the first option, which is the Viva, and will ask the quantity. So I choose 1 and ask the rent days. If I choose 2 days, it will ask you, do you want to continue as user? And I choose no, because I want to go to the admin page to approve the booking. So here I choose the admin, and the system requests to enter the walking ID. So I enter the B0320. It will show the 3 options. So I go to the first option, process the booking to approve the booking. So it will list out the booking detail, and the system will ask, do you want to approve the booking? If I choose yes, and it will see out the order has been approved. So it will ask, do you want to continue as admin? And I choose no. And I go back to the user page and choose the option 2 to see the process of booking and enter the ID, which is 1. And it will show the detail and at the status is approved. So I continue with as the user, and I go to the option 3, same key in the IC. So it will show the total price, total rent days, quantity, car name, car brand, IC number, name, and the number. So they ask again, do you want to continue as user? And yes. And I can go to the option 5 to payment and request again the IC number. So it will display the receipt and the booking detail, and the last will show, thank you for the payment. The rental car will be arrived soon. So thank you. That's all for me.